mic him.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Free Mind Podcast. This is Rob Li and we are doing AcroYoga.
This is Nate, and he's number 9,406 on the Ride the Rob project. Getting there.
Awesome.
Ride the Rob.
Oh my god. That was so much easier than I thought it was going to be.
That's cameras over there.
Yeah, go with that.
My name's Rob Li. I teach acrobatics, and then I started a clothing line for acrobats, pole dancers, yogis, basically fitness enthusiasts. And essentially what I do is I take issues that people have and I create a solution through apparel. And the clothing line is called Active Elixir. But I realized that actually somebody suggested not calling it a clothing line, just giving it kind of like a vague name, so that way you can kind of expand into different things. So it's Active Elixir. And the tagline is we provide a solution for people with movements. And not only is it clothing, but it could be like different events or workshops and everything. And I also teach Acro around the world, around the country, and also do some photography.
So, yeah, we all got together for this, but we actually have similar missions in what you're talking about. Yeah, so we want this to be like a bigger community and like talking to people like yourself and stuff like that. That's kind of exactly where. I mean, it makes sense. Our lives always interjected and intersected. And I remember like what you're doing the point of sale systems and merchant services and stuff like that, right? Was that your family's business?
Yeah, family business.
That's awesome.
I was doing it for like 17 years, and then I discovered Acro. And I'm like, oh, this is so much fun. And it was like a small piece of the pie, and it got like bigger and bigger. And now it's like, now I do it. I do it all over the world. I started. I actually had no interest in teaching. I was just doing this for fun. And then one of the yoga studios, the owner was like, you should come and teach. Like, you taught me how to do this like within a few like seconds. I think you'd be good at teaching. You should try it out. And I tried it out, and it was cool. It was awesome seeing people get really excited about learning new skills. And then all of a sudden I was teaching workshops. I was teaching at different events and festivals. And then I would just go abroad and not know anyone and just be like, I'm doing a workshop, and people like show up. It's kind of cool.
So you're pitching the workshop yourself?
So usually, like, I'll meet people who are different communities, and they're like, hey, if you're ever in like, in Austin, Houston, New Orleans, Atlanta, wherever, like, let us know, and then we'll set you up for a workshop. Or if I'm going to a different city for whatever reason, I'll reach out to the people in the Acro community or people with studios and like, hey, are you interested in setting up a workshop?
Nice.
And usually it's like if I can teach Acro there, if there's places that can that are interested in the clothing line, like various studios, pole studios, Acro studios, and if people want to do photo shoots, then like, all right, I'll just go. Yeah. I'm heading to Jacksonville in a few weeks. I met the owner at PoleCon, which I will be going. It's going to be alumni game. I know. I'm kind of sad about that. But like, she reached out to me like a few months, like almost a year later, and she's like, hey, would love to have you to come and teach workshops, and interested in the clothing line, full wear, and also like to do photo shoots. And then so I go there, and then I reached out to people in the Acro community, and like, hey, if you are interested in workshops, I can also do that. So then I'm there teaching like 5 workshops, like Jacksonville, and they're like, oh, you can always crash with us, and then people offering like
so you're doing like a multi-day journey stint kind of thing.
So I'm like, all right, so I find out like which days they have the jams. I can meet people, I can lift people for my project. Nice. So yeah, I'm still trying to go and lift 10,000 people.
I'll add one to your list today. You've never lifted me before.
I have not. I thought about that. I was like, I wonder if I lifted Nate yet.
Ava's going to be here later.
All right,
So there you go.
Because the issue now, I'm at 9,400 some people. The issue is that I already lifted over 9,000 people. Yeah. So it's tough to find new people because, like, I go to like an event where I lift like 90% of people already.
We'll turn it into a co-branded short or something.
You even have the list of their names. Right? So, like,
I'm definitely not on it.
You could tell me like what number I was.
Yeah, I can look it up.
I feel like I was in the hundreds.
You were early.
I remember when you started.
I started in 2017. I was shooting for like 2,000 people per year.
In the 200s.
You were early. Yeah.
I was trying to think when he said about you coming, I was trying to think about the last time I even saw you. Like, it's been so long.
Yeah. And
then compared to like how we saw each other so much, like even outside of rugby stuff, because like you'd be doing the bar stuff and you'd be out and like we'd always be crisscrossing or the stuff at what was that? Not at Delilah's. What was that? Diamond.
T-Street.
That was it. Yeah.
Yep. So we competed. We had one second the other years. But yeah, it's just kind of cool. Like to think, like to take Acro, actually to go further back. Like I did cheer in like a little bit in high school and college, and then I discovered Acro was basically taking those skills of like tossing people around and to like utilizing it in different ways. And then all of a sudden, like you find a career out of it. Then it's like it just opens a lot of doors. You can go to like I can go anywhere in the world and search up AcroYoga in a random city, and I'll find people who do Acro. And like because of like what I can offer, if they're interested in the skill sets, then I can set up workshops there as well. And it's like then you can take these skills and you go to these different routes. So then I start performing. Dude, I've been on stage at more strip clubs now than I've been like at a patron, because like I had a model that I shot with, and she's like a featured dancer, and she was like, "Oh, it'd be awesome if we could do a routine with like you tossing me around doing Acro." And then so that was like a whole other world. And then like other people I found that out. And then when I went to Delilah's that one year, my friends were competing at Diamond G. So, it's like it was a $15,000 grand prize for the team. Winner takes all. It's like one of the biggest purses like in the at least in the Northeast, maybe the U.S. And like basically I saw guys on stage like doing Acro, and I'm like, I want to do that. So for like a whole year, I thought about this. I plotted it out. I recruited like my team of dancers, pole dancers. I taught all of them Acro. My idea was Alice in Sexyland, and we won. It apparently changed the whole like scene that year. People were saying because we added this whole level of like acrobatics and everything.
Dude, it was night and day, because we used to go all the time. Well, I went all the time for when I was with the Auriglio beverage with all the beer stuff, and then that one year was the year that when I came. We met out at Kavanaugh's River Deck, and then went over there to see that because you were like, "Oh, dude, I'm actually doing like organizing it and all this other stuff." And I remember walking in there and being at so many past years, and it being a standard whatever you would expect at that place. But that year was just, it was like you were in a musical. I mean, it was like I can't even like describe it. Like it was in addition, it was the wardrobes. It was so much more than just the skill set. There was a story. There was a theme. It was like cohesive. It wasn't just a million people flinging around in the air like while you're walking around and stuff. Or were you always like, I've only known you, I didn't know you in high school, like I've only known you as the social butterfly, the hustling go-getter. Is that always what you were? Or what age did that fire kind of get lit?
I think in high school I was a bit of an overachiever.
Okay.
I did football, wrestling, track. I was on the diving team because my friends were all swimmers. I did like yearbook, German club, drama club, choir. I was taking AP classes, honors classes. I did a lot of stuff, but it wasn't like, like I come from an Asian family.
Yeah.
They have like high expectations. The whole, a B is the equivalent of an Asian F. I remember taking home my report card and I showed it to my dad, and he was, I had some A's, A pluses, a couple of like A minuses, and he was like, "What's the highest grade you get?" He's like, and I was like, "Oh, A plus." He's like, "Try better next time." I was like, "Okay." So that was, I just had really high standards, and but I also enjoyed what I did. I enjoyed like the contact sports, and then when I in college, I was like, "Oh man, there's this thing called rugby." And there's no football team like at Drexel, but I was just like, I want to play rugby. So I was able to play rugby, and I'm glad that I did. And met you guys. But then like the kid down the hall was like a cheerleader, and he's like, "Hey, we're recruiting for the cheerleading team." And then
his name was Nate too, wasn't it?
No, it was Dustin.
Oh, that's
who actually recruited me. He was down like a couple doors down, and it made sense because you get pre-registration, you get scholarship, you're considered a varsity athlete, access to the varsity weight room. I was like, sure, sign me up. And then I was like, I talked to the coach. I was like, is it cool if I did both, like rugby and cheer? And she was cool with it. So I ended up like doing both. But I guess like, a bit of an overachiever all throughout. And like in college, I think I graduated with like maybe 60 extra credits than I needed to. I could have graduated early, but I graduated on time. I guess my what did I graduate? I think Bachelor of Arts in International Studies with concentrations in German and Chinese, with minors in business administration history. So I just picked up a bunch of stuff and graduated on time. And I don't know, I was just like really interested in doing a lot of things, and I just kind of did it. I would just do things like on my own if no one else wanted to go, and that's just like the mindset I always had. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of like the first time I met you was like after the Deefer Dude thing, I think.
Oh my my gosh. Yeah, so
and then I met you, and then I remember sitting in the living room of this frat, and you and I just like talking business, and like everybody else just moving away, and you and I were just like talking about sales and like the bar scene in Philadelphia, and it was like everyone checked out and walked away, and you and I were on the corner of the couch, like that's.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Like, just like I didn't realize, like, just like talking like business and what you can do with your life and all these like different like ideas. It's exciting,
Yeah.
And I'm like really happy for you guys. Like, I really am, because I made that jump. I was doing something for 17 years, and I did decide to pursue something I really enjoy and love. And it's a little scary, but it's also like really rewarding.
Yeah.
And having that freedom and to do what you want, what you love I feel like once you find that, it's an incredible feeling. And like you're self-motivated a lot too. Like, I usually don't sleep, but then like for me, like when I don't sleep, it's like I enjoy like setting up workshops or traveling, seeing new friends, like just teaching people, and yeah, it's been awesome. But yeah, D4Dude, man, like so yeah, I actually won a male beauty pageant.
Oh yeah, that was before
Before me.
Right before you joined.
Yeah, this was so D4Dude is essentially D5 sets it up. It's like a big thing. And I actually used cheer as my talent, and I brought a cheerleader, did some moves, and I remember my thought process, right? So the top 3 placers would get a home cooked meal by the sorority, and I'm thinking I just want to like place top 3 just to eat, like I love to eat, just give me the top 3. That's all I wanted. And they were going down the names, and I'm like, man, like 3rd place, 2nd place. I was like, I didn't even make it to the top 3. And then like they announced me as the winner, and I was like, whoa, like I won. I was really excited about the food. And then I was like, wait, I just won the competition. So it was like so I won a male beauty pageant. It's a little known fact, I guess. Yeah. And I used cheer as my talent. Like, it's just crazy how like cheer has helped me like open all these doors. That I had no idea. And I do remember, like, when I was young, I used to see the stuff they do on ESPN, all this crazy stuff, and and then just, the opportunities that happened. After college, most of the time, you don't do much with cheer unless, like, you go into coaching and whatever. I had a friend of mine who's like, hey, like, if you're interested, there's one more spot on the team. The Philadelphia Soul, the arena football team, has an opening. They have, cheerleaders. And that was like, Bon Jovi was like technically one of my bosses, and I just show up, I toss the girl around, and they're like, you made the team. I was like, cool. and then so now I'm a professional male cheerleader, and then my buddy is like, hey, there's a spot now for the Sixers. Right. There's one more spot. I missed the tryouts. I don't know where. I don't hear about any of these things, but so I go toss somebody around, and they're like, you made the team. So that's cool. And then I did it like during the Iverson era. So like, man, like packed like 20,000 people, playoff atmosphere. Oh, it was awesome.
So you were there in 01?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I did it for I think 3 years. But I just remember like just being there like during the playoffs, and it was wild, like packed stadium, and like it was experience.
I remember going to your Soul games. That was fun. That was arena football was like what a cool experience that was, man.
Aren't you in a M. Night Shyamalan movie?
Oh yeah, I'm in a few movies, like popping here and there. It was funny. I found out like one of my friends was the production assistant. I was like, oh, what are you doing here? He's like, oh, yeah, I'm helping out. And then I was just like, because you don't see the final cut later. It's like how much of it in the movie I am. And then he's like, oh, they can see like front and center. Like I was like, cool. I remember we're at the party scene, and at one point like Paul Giamatti has like run through, and like everyone just like kind of split like the Red Sea, and then they had to do it again because it looked unrealistic. And I remember like I'll just hang out here. So like in the movie you can see me just like hanging out, and he had to like goes like around me. Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, man.
What was that? The lake or the
lady in the water?
The lady in the water. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, like you've done so many things that most people wouldn't even try. Right?
I just think about the things like even
chance.
Yeah, and going back to like even just the creative stuff like in college, like you just kept accelerating. It was like you just kept stacking. It was like everything was one step better than the next.
He's also the only person I know that always maxed out their contacts on their phone. Couldn't add contacts. Did you carry a book too?
So apparently on Facebook and on Instagram there are max numbers of people that you can follow, and I hit maximum for both. So I haven't added anyone new like in Facebook in a long time, unless people deactivated or unfriended me. Then I have like spots open, and then like once in a while I'll spend a couple of hours just like, all right, accept a few and whatnot. But yeah, apparently there's these things that you don't even know about, and it's tough because like when I first started Instagram, it's like, oh, like people like my stuff or follow me, like follow them back. And then lifting like the 10,000 people project, like these are people that I actually met in person, but I feel that I can't follow them anymore because I hit the max number of people I can follow. But I have other accounts for like Acro, for my clothing line, for my photography page. So like if they're into Acro, I'll add them through there. If they're models and photographers, I'll add them through a different account. So like there's a way to get around it. But I feel bad because like on my main personal account, like I can't add any more people.
I mean, I guess we got to get a hold of Zuckerberg on that.
I wonder how many people that's a problem.
Yeah.
Too.
You have to be a
Are
single.
you in the top 1% of the top 1%?
Yeah. I mean, if there's anybody that should have an account manager for Facebook, then that's the example. Is if you hit the ceiling.
You should think about, maybe you're already doing this in a way, or thinking about this, but having like a lifestyle brand.
Yeah.
Rob Li, like a community of acrobatics.
Well, what's funny is that you mentioned that like, so the clothing that I design, right? It's different, and people recognize it.
Mm-hmm.
So I have friends who are more like, they're a little bit more like, on the shyer side, and then they don't like to go and talk to like random people sometimes. But then they see someone wearing the same top that she has, and they're like, she must know about it.
Nice.
So then they become friends just from because like if they something for me, then they usually have to either know me directly or like it's through some sort of like degree of separation. And then they told me that it's like great icebreakers, like oh Rob, and then
I've used it.
yeah.
I've used it a lot. Sometimes it could be anywhere. Texas.
Yeah,
it's
Rob.
It was like you even like. Right, you met my cousin somehow, and somehow like you it was at the wedding or so, I forget where you're like, oh, you didn't even realize like
that's happened like a lot.
Yeah.
There's times where like I lifted someone, and then I was at like a family event. They're like, you lifted up my cousin,
Right, that's
like,
cool.
randomly, and like dude, like so here's the other thing that I learned all these stories about myself that I don't know about like at the time, right? So apparently I'm in so many people's like Tinder profile pictures, ridiculous, right? So like if I lifted, so if I lifted the girls, right, they'll put like me in their profile picture, and then some of the guys too, and it's been like a huge icebreaker. They're like, oh, like
that's free advertising.
Yeah. So they're like, oh, you know.
Well, here's the question: how many people thought they were meeting you for lunch and then ended up getting disappointed?
That's only happened at least once or twice. It's a different story about that. There's been impersonators apparently to use my name, the college days. But back to the Tinder. Apparently, people will use that as an icebreaker. Right. Be like, hey, like oh, I met him, or like are you into Acro? And whoop, goes an umbrella.
It's live.
Because I guess like when you lift like 9,000 some people, like there's gonna be a lot of.
You take that. What was that thing? 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon or something like that. You just kind of layered it down to 1 or 2 now. Like you could probably. You're at a networking place from your entire existence. You could have a board game like that. I think better than his even, because it's not. I mean, when you look at life like an ecosystem too, and you look at things visually, how everything interconnects. Once you get to like 2,000 connections in your life, that is you realize how small the world is at that point. And I think that like between what you've been doing just with Acro alone, and then. Not even you already could have done that before the Acro. Now you throw Acro in there with 10,000 other direct.
It's a whole other level, and it's the wildest thing too. Like I all these like random stories. Like what's an example? There's so many stories. Like one time I was in Naples, Florida, right? A friend was like, oh, like you like bubble tea. There's a new bubble tea place. We go there, and then I go there. We get the bubble tea, and then I lifted up the people working there, the staff there, and then one of the girls she finds me on Instagram, like, well, we have mutual friends, but she's like, I just moved from Hawaii, like I don't understand that, and then we found out who the mutual friend was, who was actually one of the featured dancers that I performed with, like at a different strip club, and then apparently she just moved to Hawaii, and she was like one of the girls that told me about that. If I ever in Hawaii, I should look her up because she also models too. And lift her for my project, So I didn't lift her in Hawaii. I lifted her in Naples, Florida, at Bubble Tea Place. Like, well, just random stories.
That's great, and that's what I mean. Like, it's just your web is so interconnected and smaller. I mean, it's just not smaller; it's bigger, but yet smaller. How fast you can. Yeah. I bet you'd be surprised at how many people you're 1 degree separated from sometimes.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of cool. Like, and to think about how. I don't know. Like I said, I guess that's why people might use my name as an icebreaker or like a.
Yeah. So you officially. What does that make you? Are you the catfish? The catfisher? Like, you're not the catfisher. You're the catfish, right? Or you're the bait. Like,
yeah.
You're the bait.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an achievement in life. I mean,
there's been one time where someone pretended to be me. Let's see. I won't go into all the details, but apparently she recognized that it wasn't me. Well, that he wasn't me later on after he admitted it. After confronting a bunch of people claiming that it wasn't, that he wasn't me.
Yeah.
And then later on, they still went out on a date. It didn't work out, but
he couldn't be trusted.
Yeah, but she met his friend / roommate while in the process of all this, and then now they're married. So it's just funny because he pretended to be me to try to get with this girl. They still went on a date, didn't work out, but then she ended up marrying his friend from all that. So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
What part of your life? Where geographically was that?
That was during my college years. Yeah.
So funny.
Yeah. Wow. That's funny stories.
We were talking I was thinking about in college, even the different events, and I was between things that I would be doing and other events. You had other events you were creating from the ground up, and
yeah.
What was that under at that time? Was that under the point? It was just you spitballing and just freelancing and just creating things.
I was I ended up doing party promotions and events in college. I was a writing tutor.
Right.
The kid was like, hey, I'm doing parties. Could you just let people know about it? And in less than 2 days, I had over 200 people show up. I just sent hey, throwing a party to a bunch of on my email list.
Yeah.
And a bunch of people showed up, and I think it was a win-win for everyone because it was the what was it? I had friends who were in sororities, on dance teams, on cheerleading teams, and then the guys they loved that, and they bought drinks for all the girls, and then the girls loved that, and so it was just a win-win. And then I guess I started RL Productions.
That's what it was.
I just started throwing parties, and I just had all these different ideas, on yachts and different clubs, just all these different ideas. I guess when I have an idea, I just kind of go with it. Even the whole the 10,000 people project, the Ride the Rock project. I was taking a shower in October, and I was just like, man, I really enjoy Acro. Everyone should try Acro. And I'm like, wait, why doesn't everyone just go and do Acro? So I started in it was October of 2016 when I had the shower thought, and I was like, in 2017 I will start my project of lifting 2017 people for 2017. And it had to be something challenging, but doable.
Yeah.
So that's roughly around 6 people per day. And then when I was finishing up, I was like, man, I don't want this to end. Let's go for 10,000 people over the course of 5 years. But that kind of changed because of the pandemic and everything.
Yeah.
But just going around, just lifting people, showing them that they're able to do stuff. And it changed from I just wanted to show people what Acro was to realizing how empowering it can be. People yo, I can do this, and it's great. Just like I said, there's all these different stories that come out. I remember I was in Florida. I lifted this woman at a pool, and she was almost in tears. She's like, you have no idea how much this means to me. I was like, why? And she's like, well, I found out my boyfriend was cheating on me, and now he's currently at home moving all stuff out. I'm just sad, depressed, and you made me feel so beautiful and hot in my bikini while lifting me. That's my new Tinder profile picture. Didn't see it's and it's all these different stories that it's just connecting with different people. Yeah.
But and even to just that human connection that even before COVID, that's why I want to make sure anybody that's ever looks up your stuff realizes this is what you've been about since when I met you 20 years ago, which is a crazy statement to make. But yeah, I mean, I've known you for 20 years.
Wow.
And this is what you, whether you were on a $0 budget, like, or you were sponsored, you know what I mean? You were doing this stuff, and it was always about the human connection, and it was never about, you know, what can I do for me? It was, and you always, like, I always loved talking to you as well, because our brains work the same, where the first time you meet someone, you automatically, if they're like, oh, I'm an electrical engineer, your brain's always like, oh yeah, John's an engineer. And you go through the Rolodex of people that he could. I'm making assumptions, but I think by knowing you, like, even just from the surface level, that's a skill that I used to think everybody had, but I don't think a lot of people have that.
It's so interesting you say that, because recently, like, I do like connecting people with other people, especially if they can help them out in different ways. And like in Acro, someone was telling me, like, she works in film, and you know, sometimes she gets, like, you know, like weird looks and whatnot, because when people find out that she does Acro, and apparently film people are more like reserved and whatnot. And then I was like, well, there's somebody else who's also a girl, you know, a female, who also does Acro and is in film, and she doesn't have that problem. And if you want, I can connect you two together. And they did. They both they're both amazing people. And then they're like, oh my gosh, like, you know, this has been great just talking to people, you know. And yeah, and it's like just connecting like awesome people with other awesome people. I think it's great.
And that the thing is too, it's like, it's not even anytime I had ever been around you and always seen anything with you too, like not most people, but like you always see people like where it's like predictable who they hang out with or what type. There is nobody that can ever pinpoint, and that's why I've always loved about you is like, and it's not even just like you are a connector and a glue to so much connection and bridging, and I think it's like you bring that comfort to the room for people that they can connect where they normally wouldn't. Like, I've been in rooms with you where two people like would never speak, but you're all of a sudden, you sit in the middle, you're having the conversation, you can introduce them, and then casually, whether you walk away and they continue to interact, it's just like it's fucking magic.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it really is, and like I just need like more people that are like that, need to know that it's not normal. And there needs to be more of it in the world that like sets people in motion, because people need help. Like, people need help connecting, and people need help, especially like after COVID. I feel like a lot of people really kind of started closing in on themselves and like stopped reaching out to people, or like got comfortable with only, like, I'm so excited that we actually are physically here and made this an intentional conversation as opposed to like hopping on a Zoom.
Yeah.
It's just so much more energy like out of this talking about it.
Yeah, like it's interesting because like you know, a lot of people like, you know, will want to do things remote, but like I prefer like, you know, in person. Like when he was telling me that you'll be here when people would know, I was like, dude, like I haven't seen you in years. Like I would love to just meet up in person and hang out. And then especially if I haven't lifted you up either, like, you know, I'll lift you up too. It's just like, yeah, I guess there's something about Acro too, having that like that connection, and making someone feel awesome, like even for like a few seconds, like that day. Like I've had a lot of people who go up to me and like, you really made my day, and even for a few seconds, it kind of like changed their mindset. It really, I guess, like was a big confidence boost into thinking that what, you know, they're able to do, what they're able to achieve. And you know, and I'm realizing that like, you know, with good guidance, if someone knows what they're doing, and then, you know, to be supportive, like you're able to do so many different things.
And so when you go out for your business right now, like what types of, you're looking at like people that are running yoga retreats, things like that, where you can either help them run and be a bolt-on experience for those types of guests and things like that, or is that kind of where you're going?
It's so interesting. I've been asked to teach at like multiple like retreats, like to think that like I was in South Africa. Yeah. I was asked to teach Acro there, and also to be a photographer there, and then another one in Nicaragua and another one in Hawaii. So like they're asking me to go and teach Acro, but also like offer my photography skills. Oh, nice. And like that's the thing. It's like another like, you know, channel that I didn't know like was even a thing, and it's just kind of cool. But yeah, maybe like later on, you know, be a consultant of like just these experiences. Because man, when I started a clothing line, I don't know anything about women's clothing. Like I don't usually wear women's clothing. I know nothing about women's clothing.
You slipped usually in there really good though.
Yeah, because I started to just like test things out, you know. So I was just like, it was interesting. I remember this moment. I was coaching temple cheer at that moment, and then I don't even look at women anymore. Like I kind of look at what they're wearing more so. Like and I noticed this like really cool sports bra, and I was like, oh, where did you get that? And then the other coach is like, why are you asking about sports bra? And I was like, oh, I took out my prototypes because I always carry my stuff around. Because I'm
He was waiting to pounce on you.
and then I was just like,
I'm glad you asked.
Yeah.
because I'm designing clothing
Yeah.
now. And then she was like, well, like you have access to like 40 very opinionated women that'll tell you about what they like and what they don't like. And it was interesting because my dad, he told me about how growing up, like there's a couple of things that I've learned from him, especially taking your disadvantage and turning it into an advantage, right? When he came to the States, his English wasn't that great, and he was doing, computer sales and whatnot, and he was telling me the story about how when he was looking for clients, people were like, why should I, buy from you as opposed to this other person? And he's like, well, the other person, like, they have their families, they're comfortable. Like me, like I'm just starting out. Like my English may not be as good as theirs, but like I will like work for you. I will make sure everything's taken care of. During your holiday hours, late hours, like I will make sure, like I will like take care of what needs to be done. And then that kind of story like stuck with me because it's like, all right, well, I'm not a woman. I don't wear women's clothing, but I do have access to a lot of women who can tell me what they like and what they don't like. So when I started designing the clothing, I come up with, I have my ideas in mind, but then I also try to address different issues that people have, right? So an example was someone who was like, oh, I love crop top hoodies. Can you make crop top hoodies? I was like, sure. So I designed a crop top hoodie, the standard stuff, like a sweatshirt and the strings and whatnot. And then once I got the prototype, we tested it out by doing Acro, and that was just horribly because like you're upside down, being flipped around, the hood goes over your head, the string goes up your nose, and like all this stuff. And I was like, well, I can't use that for Acro, so let me figure out what to do. So I got rid of the strings, and they're like, I don't usually use the strings anyway. Sometimes I'll chew on it, but that doesn't really serve a purpose.
Right.
And then I had the idea of adding magnets to the hood, so when you're doing inversions or handstands, it doesn't go over your head, but if a foot gets caught in it, it doesn't get stuck, it'll just come undone. So that's like an original idea I created. So if you're like boxing or doing pole dancing, doing floor work or jogging, and you want that to have that hoodie kind of look and feel, because most people are cold and they still want to do things, you don't have to worry about the hood going over your head when you're doing upside down or when you're jogging and everything. So that was like an original idea. So it's kind of cool to like, all right, this is the challenge, this is the issue. How do I resolve this? What can I do? What can I design to fix that issue? And that is like the basis of the clothing line. I just have all these ideas combined with these issues that I can address.
Yeah.
So it's been kind of cool. And man, apparently, so I had a couple of videos. Well, I would test them out, right? And the way that women test out clothing to make sure things don't like pop out I thought was hilarious. So then we started doing like little like videos of it to show like the behind the scenes stuff. And man, like there's some girls with like very large cup sizes, and they're like, oh, I don't think the sports bra will hold me. And I was like, let's test it out. So we'll have like ways where like they're upside down, and I'm trying to like bounce them as hard as they can to get their boobs to pop out, and they don't, which is great. So it's just like, all right, it passed the stress test. And if things do pop out, then it's like, all right, back to the drawing board. Like, what can we do and everything. But it's so interesting learning about like what women do to test out clothing and make sure everything stays in. There's like the swim test. There's ones where they bend over and they try to jiggle everything. It's very eye-opening experience, like learning all these things too. And now like I'll talk to women about like clothing like all day long because it's like I'm so fascinated by this and I'm just learning these things like
so
all
now
the
you
way.
can see like when other designers missed something that is so, like where it's like, oh, that guy didn't talk to enough people.
Yeah, because most of the time like you just create the clothing and you sell it in bulk, right? So what I do, it's almost like an art piece. Like each design that I create, I've designed like from scratch, like it's from my mind, like onto paper, onto like getting a prototype from the manufacturer. And once I get this prototype, I have people in that field, in that discipline to test it out. So say I'm designing a design for pole wear, right? So I get a whole bunch of pole dancers to test them out, and they give me feedback. And I like, sometimes it's very long and expensive process, but by the time it's ready to go and I do the bulk production, like people are like, holy crap, like this is amazing. This is something I've been looking for all my life. And it's really cool to be able to see that. And then now when I go to different events and festivals, like I see people wearing my stuff, which is like also really cool. Yeah.
That's really sweet, man. Talk a little bit about, like you said, about your dad and things like that, like growing up prior to us meeting you, like what that was, that drive and that factor in your family had a business that was doing that type of stuff, and kind of growing up through that, where your dad's carving his own path.
Yeah,
and he's really like, he's just like, what is that like? What is that like? And your mom and everything like that. And how to,
my dad was always focused on business, and like that was like, you know, the thing that you had to like really like just basically, you know, like like have good grades, like, you know, focus on school, but also like, you know, business. My mom was like the social butterfly. She knew everyone's like anniversaries and birthdays and everything, so it was very, very, very different. So it was also very confusing because it's like my dad's like, you got to focus on this. My mom's like, you got to focus on this. So I guess I got the best of both worlds. But my dad is like, you know, there's like a lot of things. Like he's a firm believer in like, I would rather teach you how to fish than give you fish. You know, so like I just every time there was like a new project or something, like he was just like, figure it out yourself. Like, you know, I am going to college. Like, you know, you own you sell computer like parts. You know, like, can I like get a computer? He's like, yeah, you know, you got to pay for it and then build it yourself. I was like, how am I supposed to build a whole computer? Like, I know nothing about it. Well, then his response was like, well, something's going to happen to the computer in college. Who's going to help you, right? But if you build it yourself, you can understand it, you can figure it out, and you can like fix it. I was like, oh, that makes sense. So I built my computer before I went to college, and like, you know, I paid for it and everything, but like it was so interesting because like I had no really interest in tech. I was more into like, you know, like I guess more like social and people aspects. But then it was just something I was like, oh, that's nice to have knowledge about like how computers work and, you know, and just technology in general. So it's really interesting, like I guess growing up, because, you know, I have that side, and then my mom, like, you know, she's oh man, she's like overly generous, like overly kind. Like I remember like during Christmas, she wanted me a list of every person I interacted with in college, and like she gave me like presents for everybody, from like the bus driver to all my teachers to the custodian. So I carried a giant trash bag and gave out like presents to everyone like that day.
You were like Santa Claus.
I was Santa. I was the Asian Santa Claus, the little kid version. Yeah. So like that's what it was like growing up. And yeah, it was just like very, very interesting. But it was one of those things where like, yeah, my dad's like, you know, like focus on like, these are like, knowledge is power. Like they brought me encyclopedias and then they want me to read the whole thing. Like that's what I did like during the summer. Like, you know, this is
really?
This is the encyclopedia.
You're that Tam and Ed, you weren't that crazy. My parents did the same thing. I had it in the what was the National Geographic?
Yeah. And then so I had like an encyclopedia. Like I got zoo books. I was reading on all these animals, and like and it was interesting because like all this knowledge apparently came in handy. Like, and because sometimes like during school, like they'll talk about whatever topic, and I'm like, oh, I know the stuff I read on zoo books. Like how do you know so much about wolves? Well,
that's too funny. I thought I was the only one.
Yep, I have like the encyclopedias. I have like the childcraft things, like all these different stories about everything. So yeah, they made me read a lot. Like
my son was like playing with them the other day, and he was like, "What are these things?" I'm like, "That's the internet." Yeah, it's like, and we're your mom and dad. What their story? They meet here in the States, or
no? They were like married in Taiwan. Essentially, my dad, I think, is from like the city side. My mom's like more from the countryside. Semi-arranged marriage, I guess. It was just like, oh, like, you know, I think the story was like, oh, I think she'd be good for you and whatnot. And then they got married. But like the mentality is different though. Like, you know, my mom was more focused on social stuff. My dad's more focused on business. So they end up like, you know, getting divorced. And I mean, they're still like friends and everything. Which is like really interesting. Like they didn't tell me they were getting divorced until like after I was finishing my freshman year in college, because they're like, yeah, we don't want to tell you. We want you to focus on your studies and not worry about this stuff. So it's always like, you know, like about, you know, doing well in school. My brother though, like he just let him get it with whatever. Like apparently he made this comment. He's like, oh, Rob can only get A's. Like I can get A's, B's, and C's. And they're okay with that, I guess, because apparently, like, you know, schoolwork wasn't his thing. But he's more like hands-on and more like, you know, like.
Is he
that
younger?
Kind of, he's younger, yeah. So
makes sense.
yeah, like I remember, like my parents wouldn't let me play football because they were afraid I'd get hurt. I did get hurt eventually, but I remember like for a full year I would bug them, and they finally let me play football. And then when my brother wanted to play football, it was easy because I always. You know, it took a whole year for them for me to convince them. So I ended up like doing cheer and golf for that year, and hitting the weight room until they let me play football. But yeah, I bugged them for like a year, like every day for like a year until they let me in.
That's crazy. Yeah, Drexel's what is that? Undefeated since '92 or something. When the last time they had a football
like
team.
something, yeah.
I remember that T-shirt they were selling.
Do you actively market your apparel?
I do. So it's interesting because I feel like I have so many things going on, right? I do need to spend more time in marketing that. People seem to love it once they try it on, but like I also have an online store. The problem is that if my items are higher price items, so when you see something that higher price and you don't have the reputation behind it, it's tough to get it. You know what I mean? So, but in terms of like in the different like workshops or pop-up shops or different events where people can actually feel, touch, and put them on, like they've done like really well. So I do need to market it more. I've sent out a few things to like really well-known like pole dancers, and it was really cool. Like all of a sudden, like I get, they post something and then I get sales from like Spain, from Switzerland, like all these different places. I'm like, oh wow, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. You have to. Yours is such a body structure type thing, and like that try it before you buy it mentality that exists in e-commerce is challenging.
Yeah.
Like, and to scale that, you have to. I mean, that changes the entire.
Yep.
That changes the flexibility of your life, and then you're not as nomadic as you. There's a fine line of what you can do. Yeah, as far as that goes.
But what's cool though is that like I have different channels. Like I travel to teach at different workshops. So when I go, I can also see what the studios are in that city and talk to them. Or I know people who are somehow related to either pole studios or different acro studios. Like when I was in Taiwan, like I taught a workshop there, and then one of the girls is a pole dancer, and she's like we would love your stuff. Like put me in touch with the owner, and we they sell stuff, and they did like wholesale order.
Yeah.
So they sell some of my stuff in Taiwan now. So it's been kind of cool, like getting that. So it's like it's interesting because like there are challenges, but also with what I do, like there's also different like opportunities as well. Yeah.
So as far as that type of stuff, so you like anybody that's looking at your type of stuff right there, most optimal or most like kind of would be like yoga studios, dance studios, gentlemen's clubs, things like that, or anything like that area.
Pole studios, acro studios. I need to make things sexier if I decide to do more gentlemen's clubs.
Okay.
Because there's like these things that I don't think about, right? Like a lot of the tops that I have are more for like sports and fitness where everything's contained. But then if you're going for gentlemen's clubs, right? They need something with easy access. When they take the top over like this, it's less sexy than just doing that.
Right.
So then I'd have to design it with like something easier, maybe front clasp and stuff like that. So when I design things, it's meant for certain things in mind, but then I also try to change it in a way so that it has a bigger audience, right? So an example is in pole wear, there's like these straps that like kind of lift up your butt cheeks to get like the extra kind of like bootyliciousness. So I'm thinking, right, this is great for pole wear, but then some people who don't do pole might not like that. So what I did was, and that's like a popular trend in the design, so what I did was I made it reversible, so then you can wear it in the front or the back. I used material that doubles as swimwear, because someone's like, I would love this as a bathing suit. So the idea came to mind where like I can create pole wear that can also double as swimwear for people who don't do pole, and I made those straps detachable so that you don't have to worry about the tan lines and everything. So I market it as pole wear, but you can double it as swimwear for people who don't do pole, which is a wider audience, So like just like ideas like that. So I have something that I'll focus on, but then what can I do and change to make it a little bit different, to make my stuff stand out, but also what can I also do to bring it to like a wider audience.
Well, and then from a business structure standpoint, you're looking at you're repurposing what's working and then finding new channels for the same item, and it's so efficient.
Yep.
Like that's really
kind of like the Apple model, right?
Yep.
Pick something that works and make it better.
Yeah. That's fascinating, man. That's that type of stuff. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, the lens of the intent is completely different, which changes the entire wardrobe.
Would you say AcroYoga falls under yoga, or is it more like its own?
I feel like it's its own thing. Acro in itself is the big umbrella, and from Acro, there's like, so in Acro/AcroYoga, there's different branches, right? There's so many different types. So we just say Acro as the big umbrella, and then there's like L-basing where you're like on the ground, like doing stuff like washing machines, which is very cyclical, like from a position transition base to position transition until you go to the first position and you do it over and over again. That's a washing machine. There's pops and whips, and Icarian. Icarian is basically when you throw somebody in the air, like, you know, from your back. They do something where there is a disconnect from contact, and then you catch them again. There's cheer. There's acro dance, where a lot of people know. I like to teach acro dance because I feel like you can easily translate that into performances. And a lot of people kind of go the performance route. I really enjoy cheer from my background, and also standing dynamic acro, which I think is just really, really cool, because then you have, you know, these like cool standing skills, flipping, catching, doing whatever stuff you see like at Cirque du Soleil, stuff like that.
Right.
And that's what I really enjoy doing as well. And I feel like it's just getting like more difficult and crazier and wilder, and you get to be also really creative. Like, you can take things that you know and then just kind of like make up your own stuff, or kind of build on it, or just adding more people on top of it. So with acro, you are doing things that are physical, but you're also trying to like achieve, you know, work on your different skill sets, connecting with different people. The traveling is also great, but then you also get to be creative. You know what I mean? Just like, oh, like if I'm doing a performance piece, like what can I do to maybe something that I've done before, but kind of change it a little bit, or create something like brand new. So it kind of checks like a lot of boxes.
Well, and yoga in its traditional sense is you're in a group setting sometimes, but it is very one-on-one, like wrestling.
Solo.
You know what I mean? But then acro yoga becomes interdependent. It brings the human connection, and kind of really takes it to the next level.
When I was teaching at yoga students, it was really interesting because, like, you know, I took a couple of yoga classes, and it was just like, all right, people go there, they do yoga, and then they leave. In acro, like, you got to work with somebody. You know, you get to meet a lot of people, and then, you know, usually there's like a jam afterwards, so people can kind of like, there's the social aspect where you get to try different skills, or skills that you learned during class, and just kind of meet different people. So it is like different, but with acro though, it's so cool because, you know, I kind of kid around because like this is where like retired gymnasts and retired cheerleaders thrive, because you have all those years of learning these skills, but what do you do with it? You know? But now, like, because with acro, you apply all these, like, you know, skills from like timing or flexibility, core strength, and then you can apply to these different skills. So people who have like a yoga background to cheer, gymnastics, ice skating, diving, you know, dance, like everything, like, you know, if you have that background, you can exceed and pick things up so quickly because you're utilizing those skills you've learned, like, you know, since you were young.
Plus, you're using it a little bit for those types of people, if they're not into, like, they don't like the meditation, the sitting down, all that stuff, like the stillness of it. Sometimes it can bring the same benefits in a different personality trait.
Yep. And it's really interesting to see what kind of like branch of acro people gravitate towards. You know, like the people who are really into like yoga and stuff, like, and like, you know, they might go to the L-basing stuff, the more like calmer things. There's like they say solar and lunar, right? So lunar is more like relaxed, more therapeutic. There's something called flying therapeutics, which is amazing. Like, you basically are getting lifted in the air, like massaged, stretched, and you absolutely do nothing. It's fantastic. There's also like time massage, which is another aspect of it. So you kind of use the person's body weight to kind of massage you and everything. That's more like the lunar side. The solar side is more like the power, strength, and like, you know, this is where you see a lot of people with like who are former like cheerleaders, or like weightlifters, or who do like, you know, mixed martial arts. Like, you know, you have that kind of a background to it. Like, you're standing, tossing people in the air and doing all the stuff. So yeah, there's like basically a little thing for everyone.
You know what we should do? We should keep a map whenever you're traveling.
I do.
I would give you all like the guests.
Oh yeah.
And then you just tell me ahead of time, and I'll tell every guest on here that you're gonna come to their office. And you're gonna Yeah, I got some people that would, I think, have fun with that.
It's been great because it's like the people who like want to get lifted up. It's a lot of them. It's like it's either a new experience for them, or they've had some sort of like background in cheer or gymnastics, and it's like kind of reinvigorating like something that
like,
they
bringing back a core memory.
Yeah, exactly. And it's been kind of cool because also I can do this, and I like to feature people's like passions or businesses. So like, you know, I've done a friend of mine. She started a gluten-free artistic cupcake company because she's an artist. And then I was like, yeah, I can lift you, featuring the cupcakes and everything. Person started what was it? Hey, I have lots of entrepreneurial friends I think about. now that I think about it. She started her own like catering business. So I lifted her like when she was over, like with a giant turkey, like during like Friendsgiving and whatnot. And I get to be creative with it. Like I find out like friends of mine were like flight attendants, and so I lift them in their uniforms. It's just kind of interesting. Like every day is an adventure. Like.
That's
and
awesome.
it's really cool. Like when they're starting a business, then I'll lift them in front of like their logo or whatever product they're selling to kind of feature them. And or if like they're like passionate about something, then I can also do that as well. I've lifted people, dude. There are professional mermaids, right? That I've discovered where like they spend like thousands of dollars on these like silicone like mermaid tails, right? They're so heavy. So like they're professional mermaids. They perform at like different like water related like things like they swim around stuff like that. So, like, I when I see something like, well, let me see what I can do to make certain poses work. So I lifted them like in their mermaid tails, like, and it's fun to be creative with different things. I just have random ideas. I had when goat yoga was like becoming like popular. I went to the there's like a goat organization in Philly, so I asked them if I could test out these acro poses with their goats to see what poses the goats are like to climb up on. So we did that. So I wanted to do it was going to be the first goat acro workshop in Philadelphia, maybe in the US, I don't know. But then it was right before the pandemic, so then we never did that. But just all these random ideas. I went to Florida because I found out you can hang out with lemurs. How cool would it be to do acro with lemurs? So we're doing acro poses, and the lemurs are climbing and jumping on top of you and everything.
What?
So yeah, I've just random ideas. I had when I first started doing acro, I was like, oh, it'd be so cool to do it on paddle boards. And I thought it was an original idea, and it wasn't. Apparently, on the internet, people have done it before. But for me, I thought it was original because I came up with it. But after you search the internet, you see that people have done it before. But they didn't have it in Philly, so I ended up going to the Best of Philly event, and I just happened to meet the owner of stand-up paddleboard company. So we connected, and I pitched her this idea, and I was like, hey, how do you feel about doing acro on the paddleboards? And she's like, let's go for it.
Nice.
And then so we started doing that. So just kind of adding acro to everywhere just makes things work cooler. So I've won so many random contests just by doing acro. There was apparently a Philly influencer event they invited me to, and man, when it comes to free stuff, especially t-shirts or random things, I'm all in, man.
Yeah.
And but this time it was cool. It was I think the winner won a phone, a Samsung phone, and they just had to submit something a photo. So I did acro, took a photo of it, sent it, and I won it. So that's kind of cool. Just adding
that's awesome.
Acro to everywhere you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. At bars, man, it's they'll either buy you shots and before you go, they'll kick you out. We'll give you a warning. But some of them be like, listen, that's really cool, but you shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, it's the last time you're in here.
Thighs together.
Okay.
And then cross your ankles.
Cross my ankles.
Yeah, maybe the other way. Yeah. Alright, so what's gonna happen is you're gonna do a side plank.
Okay.
You're gonna squeeze everything at the same time. Right? So come on, do a side plank.
You ready?
Yep. Alright, so get your hips a little bit higher. Get that shoulder back a little bit more. You can let go of this hand. So squeeze everything, keep them crossed. There you go, good. Let go of this hand. Okay. Alright, and then you can use the mic.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Free Mind Podcast. This is Rob Li, and we are doing acro yoga.
The important thing is to lock out your arms no matter what. Okay. Alright, so it's almost like airplane.
Okay.
So you have your arms here, locked out. Yep. Try not to bend at the waist. So sit up straight. Yep. And trust fall into me. Keep your arms underneath you. Perfect. So make sure it's locked. Yep. Lock. There you go. Yeah. Okay. Try again. Yep. And go right into that position.
All right. So unlock and lock on top.
Very.
You see how you bent?
Yeah.
To keep it locked out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Cool. All right. All right. So you're gonna piggyback on top of Nate. I can keep them on.
Yeah, leave your socks on.
There might be a little tree there. Here, let me scoot over here. Should still be the frame, I think. There's one right here. Here, just a second.
This is too funny.
Alright.
Alright, ready? 1, 2, 3. Oh, you're lighter than I thought.
Alright, so you can give him the. Alright, so come here, Nate. do the exact same thing. So I sit. You understand up straight. Take a step closer to me. There you go. Try not to bend at the waist. So come closer towards me. Like walk towards me. Walk towards me. There you go. Now you go. Keep your arms underneath you. There you go. And Johnny can sit up.
Hey, welcome to the Free Mind Podcast. This is AcroYoga.
Do it again. Keep your arms locked out. Okay, and then look to the side, Nate. All right, and then bring your heels up a little bit higher. There you go. Good. All right, come on down.
All right.
Sweet.
Oh my God, that's funny.
Woo.
Holy cow. Woo. Nice. That was awesome.
Now,
If you have a story to share or you know someone with an inspiring journey, the Free Mind Podcast wants to hear from you. Submit your story or nominate somebody to be our next guest. Check out our website, thefreemindpodcast.com, and be a part of the conversation that truly matters.